What's going on, guys? Welcome to your second stimulus check update, stimulus package update, and stimulus negotiation report for Thursday, October 22nd. Today we have stimulus updates from Nancy Pelosi, Steve Mnuchin, Mark Meadows, and from President Trump himself. Also today, President Trump and Joe Biden will do their second, or technically third, and final debate later on tonight. So let me know down in the comment section below. Will you be watching? Now, lately we have been seeing a lot of progress from Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin, even though Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell states otherwise. Now, Mitch McConnell is reportedly trying to stop any stimulus from happening prior to the election. But even with McConnell as a roadblock, Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin will continue to negotiate until a deal is reached. Now, before I get into the bulk of this stimulus update, can you spare 1 second, do me a favor, and give this video a like? I ask you to do that because this really helps out YouTube in knowing whether or not to share this videos with others as well. Alright, now let's jump into the video. Yesterday afternoon, Nancy Pelosi gave us a very good update that we have not heard before. So let's take a listen. I'm going to play the video and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it.
But we do need more money, and we needed it to be spent in a way to crush the virus. And they finally have arrived at that after all these months. And we have more that we can do.
All right, so now that you watch that, what we need to understand is one of the biggest sticking points for both sides hasn't been state and local government funding or unemployment benefits, like many people were kind of saying and alluding to. The real issue, the real sticking point has been testing, tracing, and treatment, and the language within. So, based on what we just heard from Nancy Pelosi, the Trump administration has come up and agreed here. We have an agreement, which is great. Being that Nancy Pelosi was stuck on this for a while, it is good news because now we finally can move past testing, tracing, and treatment, and we can focus on the other issues at hand. So that's really good news. Now, let's see what Nancy Pelosi says is the next issue that Republicans need to work on. So again, let's watch the video.
My view is that there's no reason that America's schools shouldn't be the safest place in America for our children to go to learn. It takes some money for more classes, more teachers, more ventilation, more technology and the rest. But it takes not that much more money to make it safe.
All right, so now that we just saw that, I agree with Nancy Pelosi at one point. Schools should be safe. Schools do need some more money. But I disagree with one of the things that Nancy Pelosi said. Nancy Pelosi said that it takes money and not that much more money. However, we know based on what Republicans were offering, which was $105 billion for school funding, and we know based off of what Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats proposed in Heroes 2.0 that they were wanting over $200 billion. Well, Nancy Pelosi's not that much money is actually over $100 billion as a difference. That's a big gap. So, the nice thing about this is, yes, schools do need additional money, do need some additional funding to make sure they're safe for our kids and grandkids and whoever to go back to school, but it needs to be the correct amount. Right now, we know how far apart they are, so this is good news. We have an idea of where both parties are currently at, which is very important so that we can know what they're going to work on in the future and really who's making the concessions here. Now, let's move into the next bit of news from White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. He had a lot to say yesterday. I covered some of his stuff in a couple of the videos yesterday as well, so make sure you go and watch those if you haven't done so already. I'll link to a couple of those down in the description box below. But Mark Meadows, he had a closed-door lunch yesterday with the senators, and reports say that he had to fend off multiple questions and concerns from the Senate Republicans. Many were wondering why the administration is bidding this up into an area where we are just going to lose support. President Trump says he is willing to and he wouldn't mind going past $2.2 trillion. However, it's the Senate Republicans that are urging him to slow down. Let's kind of wrangle it back and let's really figure out what's the best course of action. Because most Senate Republicans do not feel anything over $2 trillion is really going to benefit the economy any more than targeted stimulus in the range of $500 billion to maybe $1 to $1.5 trillion. So they want President Trump to slow down. They want Steve Mnuchin to really, put on the brakes and let's see really what we can do, because as of right now, they feel like too much stimulus is actually not going to benefit the economy any more than just a smaller targeted package. Well, Mark Meadows, he told Senator Shelley Moore Capito that it's a work in progress. So we will see what happens. We will see how much work and how much progress we see today and also tomorrow. Now, multiple senators expressed their displeasure due to the fact that Republicans are the only ones making concessions. And right now, Nancy Pelosi is slowly but surely getting everything that she has asked for. And many Senate Republicans are just wondering why. Why does the Trump administration, why does President Trump and Steve Mnuchin keep agreeing to the things and the terms that Nancy Pelosi has put on the table? Why do we keep doing this? Why don't we ask for Nancy Pelosi to have some type of concessions of her own? It's not just Republicans that should be making these deals. Well, Mark Meadows told reporters later on that, quote, most of the progress we've made have been concessions that the president has made to date. And yet, the next 2 or 3 days will make the biggest differences. We haven't seen a lot of action from Speaker Pelosi. He is simply just reiterating that Nancy Pelosi has not done much in terms of coming down any further. She said she started at $3.4 trillion. Well, said she did. That's exactly where the HEROES Act was at back in March. Well, or actually back in May. And that was at $3.4 trillion. She came down to $2.4 trillion, which a whole $1 trillion. That's a big gap. And then she came down an additional $200 billion or so, she says. But when you look at the Congressional Budget Office, they're saying that her bill actually comes out to roughly $2.4 trillion. So she only came down $1 trillion. All right, that's good. Well, Republicans, on the other hand, they started at about $500 billion. Then they came up to $1 trillion. They came up again to $1.3 trillion. They came up again to 1.5. Then they went up one more time to $1.6 trillion. Then they came up to $1.8 trillion. And now they're at roughly 1.9. So when we look at this, Nancy Pelosi was at 3.4. We got the Republicans who were wanting to pass something at $500 billion. Well, if we look at that, Republicans actually have made more concessions than Nancy Pelosi, and many Senate Republicans are very worried about that. So, that is just what Mark Meadows was saying with that quote. Well, Mark Meadows went on to say, I am optimistic. We do share one goal, and that is hopefully to get some kind of deal in the next 48 hours or so. Keyword, or so. We know deadlines do not work. We have seen Congress hit deadlines before. We wanted a stimulus package back in July before the senators and before the House went on their August recess. Well, they went on recess. Well, we wanted to see something done before the end of September. Guess what? Nothing happened. We want to see something done before the November election. Well, we're going to see what happens, because as of right now, Nancy Pelosi set a deadline for Tuesday. It is now Thursday, and we're still negotiating. So, deadlines really do not mean anything right now. Now, a deal within the next 48 hours would be great, because many people cannot wait any longer to see some type of relief. Americans need the $1,200 stimulus check, and they need it badly. Americans also need help paying their rent, and they cannot wait another month. Americans are going hungry all across the nation. And Americans need to know that if their job doesn't come back, that they will have some type of support in the extent of unemployment benefits. So Americans need some type of clarity, and it should be on the U.S. government to provide that at this time. We're in a pandemic. Why can't the government help out the American people? And this is exactly what President Trump somewhat alluded to yesterday afternoon. President Trump said in a tweet, and I quote, "Just don't see any way Nancy Pelosi and crying Chuck Schumer will be willing to do what is right for our great American workers or our wonderful USA itself on stimulus. Their primary focus is bailing out poorly run and high crime Democrat cities and states. Should take care of our people. It wasn't their fault that the plague came in from China." Well, now this is one of the roadblocks that I see both parties struggling to really come to some type of agreement on and seeing any quick resolution. Nancy Pelosi has been sticking to her numbers across most of the board using the HEROES Act and HEROES 2.0 as a guide. Well, based on this, we know that Nancy Pelosi wants $417 billion for state and local governments. I find it very difficult to see Republicans agreeing to anything close to this. The highest I see, and this would be very difficult to get more Senate Republicans to support, is I would anticipate, they're at $300 billion right now, I would anticipate Republicans and President Trump would go as high as $350 billion, not a penny more. And even $350 billion, I think would be very difficult to get many Senate Republicans on board, which means if we can't get the Senate Republicans on board, there will be no deal. It could pass through the House. President Trump could be like, "Yep, I'm ready to sign, got my pen, everything's good to go. I've been stretching my arm, I'm ready to sign this thing." And if it doesn't pass the Senate, then it does us no good. So, we do have some good news, however, okay? Steve Mnuchin is expected to be back in Washington today. So, this is really good news. If he isn't already back by the time of shooting this video, he is anticipated to be back in Washington today, which means stimulus negotiations will hopefully pick up. If this happens, then the chances of reaching a deal within the next 48 hours is possible. It's not out of the question, and it's more likely because we know phone conversations and negotiations over the phone will work and they'll be fine in a pinch, but face-to-face negotiations between Steve Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi are going to be the real way to go. We need to put pen to paper, as Nancy Pelosi puts it. However, right now, we need a negotiation. We need an agreement, and Steve Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi are the only two people that can provide that. So we need to get them in a room, lock them in a room, and make sure they do not leave until we have a verbal agreement. That is what we need. That is what the American people need right now. So, in COVID-related news, experts are predicting that within the next week to 2 weeks, we will most likely see the highest number of cases the United States has ever seen. These are new cases. That means over the next couple of weeks, experts are predicting we will see daily new case counts over 75,000 in one single day. Now, this is what many have been expecting, but this just means we need to be more cautious as the winter months roll in. Many experts are saying we will see multiple days over the next month or so where we exceed 75,000 new COVID cases per day. Well, this is your second stimulus check update and stimulus package update for Thursday, October 26th. Later on today, I will be going over the unemployment numbers that have yet to come out. They will come out probably in about an hour or two after I publish this video, so I will get back to you on that as well. And as always, make sure you go and get your 3 free stocks by depositing $100 with Webull. Right now, you deposit $100 and Webull will give you 3 free stocks valued up to $1,600 a piece. So Thanks again for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.